G'day and welcome to the Grow a Small Business Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Truen. Each week, we speak with an owner who has grown a business with 5 to 30 team members to something bigger. Diving into their numbers and unearthing the pain they've experienced, we explore what they did to overcome each barrier and what they would do differently from day one. Let's get into it. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm interviewing Igor Sack from Windscribe. He's based in Toronto, Canada. Thanks for your time today, Igor.
Hey, how's it going? Nice to meet you.
Let's start with how we know each other. Gabriella from Oscar Hamilton put us in touch. She's given us quite a few great guests, so really appreciate your time.
Yeah.
Tell our audience a bit about your business, what it does and how it makes money.
Right. So I'm one of the co-founders of Windscribe. There's two other people that help me run the company. So we're about 50 people. We make privacy tools for consumers, primarily consumers. There are some business use cases of it, but our target market is generally the average person who has very little to no knowledge about general internet privacy or security. And we make our tools to be as easy as possible to use. So anyone, including your grandma, can set them up, press the big button, and it does its thing.
Fantastic. And what kind of business model do you have? A freemium model?
Yeah, so we operate on a freemium model. So a vast majority of our 50 million plus users, we have a public status page on our website if you're curious. They don't pay us anything. And obviously, like single-digit percentages end up converting to paying users, and that's how we pay the bills, pay the staff, pay for the servers, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, it's a massive issue these days, getting worse and worse every year, is privacy. So, yeah, great timing.
Yeah, no, I mean it's a very interesting space. It's definitely growing. There's a lot of privacy violators out there. You probably have heard of the Facebooks and the Googles and the TikToks. That's sold. Their sole business model is tracking and collating this information and reselling it to effectively the highest bidder.
Yeah. How did you start out?
I mean, that's I can talk about that for hours, but the cliff notes is, I was always into computers since young age. I've built little sites since I was probably 12 or 13. Some of them were bigger, some of them were smaller. Most of them were complete failures. But in failure, you do learn what works, what doesn't. You hone in your development skills. Taught myself to program and build a whole bunch of stuff. Probably at least 50 different projects over the last 20 something years. Obviously, some were more successful, some were not. And that's what kind of like paid my personal bills. I've never successfully held a job in my entire life. I've been fired from every position I've ever had. So I figured, hey, yeah, this is probably not for me. I should probably just do my own thing, and I did. Yeah. So I mean, just before Windscribe, I operated a software development firm. So we built software for other companies, and after a few years, I kind of got tired of that, of building other people's ideas. So I figured, hey, let's go build something ourselves that we're genuinely interested in. And privacy and that entire ecosystem, especially at the time back in 2015, was very interesting to me. I've been using VPNs for quite a while, and a lot of them were pretty trashy. So we figured, hey, we can totally do better. And took about a year. Three of us. The vast majority of the work initially, working for free effectively, right? And we launched the product in April of 2016, and we became pretty much profitable month 2. And by profitable, I mean covering the server expenses and paying ourselves minimal wage. Kind of profitable, but yeah, and we grew from there.
Great. And what happened with the software development company you had?
That's all gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
You didn't sell it? Shut it down?
No, it was too small. Like we were working, like one project at a time. It was not a lot of people. I think we had like 5 or 8 people or something like that.
Yeah.
Just it wasn't interesting.
Yeah.
I prefer to build my own ideas than work on someone else's.
And how old were you in 2015 when you co-founded Windscribe?
Okay, well, let's work backwards. I'm 35 now, so I guess like about 29. Yeah.
Yeah, great. And do you have any key numbers you can share to illustrate the growth of the business?
Single-digit percentages do pay us money. And our year-over-year growth has been about, well, it fluctuates, but anywhere between 25 to 35% has been kind of like the ballpark figure.
That's fantastic.
And
50
yeah,
million users is phenomenal in 7 years.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, I should add, 50 million users. That's how many people actually tried our product.
Yes.
Our monthly actives are a
Yeah.
fraction of that, but it's still measured in millions.
Yep. Well done. And number of full-time equivalent team members you started with, was it the three co-founders and that at the beginning?
Yeah, it was myself and two other co-founders. We're all technical individuals. We all develop and do pretty much everything. And almost to this day, I still do some software development work. But we're at about 50 people right now, full time, and we're still hiring for about 3 to 4 positions, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. Great. When was the moment you felt like you had succeeded?
Well, I mean, when it started paying its own bills, I mean, that was the first milestone. That's always nice when you're not, taking money out of a piggy bank to pay the bills. So that was nice. And I guess, I mean, when we kind of crossed maybe like a 20-person threshold, at that point we could, afford giving ourselves, more reasonable salaries to actually, survive and stuff. So that was, I would say, that was another milestone. And just having a self-sustaining kind of business that doesn't rely on outside capital or any kind of marketing. Our entire business model is basically word of mouth.
Yeah.
In terms of growth. So we pretty much concentrate solely on the product, build features, talk to consumers, and build things that they want, as opposed to spending half your revenue in advertising.
Yeah, that's a thing some business owners miss. They don't talk to their customers to make sure what they're building or delivering is actually what they want, and iterate from there as well.
Yeah. In the early days, I would say first year, for sure, I pretty much did about 80 to 90% of all support, in terms of all the inbound inquiries, virtually by myself. I still do support every once in a while, not as much as I used to, but it's like, talking directly to people that have issues with your product is super useful. And not just on support, just in our support kind of help desk, we maintain kind of a very active presence on Twitter, on Reddit. We have a very public and fairly sizable Discord server where our users just hang out, help each other, suggest us things. They're kind of like also our kind of a second level QA where we have new things that we want to show to people. We'll give it to people in our Discord earlier than everyone else to play around with, give us feedback, see if they found any issues. We find that tremendously helpful. It's effectively like free QA, which is super nice.
Yep.
And you discover a lot of interesting use cases about your product, things that don't work, things that do, and then you iterate on that as soon as possible, as quickly as possible, rather.
What does success look like to you?
Well, I'm not going to say big bucks and all, because I mean that's basically a product of success. That can be the thing that you strive for. If your sole objective for running a business is to be rich, you will most likely fail, because that usually is a byproduct of of success. But I don't. I don't want to be doing this for the rest of my life. I do have a few other ideas that I would like to pursue, offline ideas, but timing does not allow. So to me, success is being able to pursue some of the other ideas that I have. But in order for me to do that, I need to grow Winscribe and our other sister company that we've decided to start at the same time. While running Winscribe, which was about 2 years ago. So we're effectively split, and the entire team is split in between effectively two companies at this point. There's some overlap in between the two, but yeah, just building products that people like, and eventually some kind of exit event.
What's the other company, and what does it do, and what's the name?
Yeah, so the other company is called Control D. We've started that about 2 years ago. It's been in a public beta for the last about a year or so. So that's a DNS service. The use case there is there's some overlap with Winscribe in terms of privacy and security, but since the DNS service, it uses different technology to deliver some of the same functionality, but the magic sauce there is that it doesn't require any software to be installed on your devices. So if there's no apps, there's fewer things to crash, fewer things to go wrong, and we can deliver some quite interesting functionality based on the platform. So currently that's again available for consumers, primarily mostly power users, but the end target user for the product is going to be businesses, and that's pretty much what we're working on, is turning this power user platform into a business oriented platform.
Yep. Number one thing you'd recommend to marketing a fast growing business?
I'm probably the wrong person to ask about anything marketing related, because we do pretty much no marketing or any paid advertising or any kind of sponsorships, contrary to some of our competitors that you've probably heard of, sponsoring every single YouTuber out there. We find that to be the reason why we don't do it is because the industry that we're in, which is privacy. And if you're in a privacy industry and you're telling your potential users that, hey, we'll improve your privacy if you use our product, it would be really hypocritical for us to violate your privacy by using all these platforms, because all advertising inherently involves tracking. You're going to search for something, you're going to click on something, then these ads for that company will follow you around across the entire internet, across all your devices, using all these various tracking platforms that our product literally breaks. And basically you're not it will prevent your devices from accessing those platforms, period. So therefore you can't leave all your little fingerprints everywhere. And yep, so we don't really do any of that. And so our sole method of growth is word of mouth, right? Build a good product that someone likes and tells their friends about.
Yeah, fantastic. How did you fund the business?
Hitting the personal piggy bank through the money that I've accumulated running the development firm, as well as some earlier web projects that I did.
And so no other investors, just the three of you?
That's right. Yeah, no, we're 100% privately owned. No outside capital was ever invested into Winscribe.
If you were to start up today with plenty of funding, would you go into your industry?
Would I go into this industry, you mean? Or
yeah.
Well, I mean, in order to be successful, you have to appreciate what you do. You have to be genuinely interested in the industry. You have to know all the ins and outs of it. You can't just be like, what should I be doing with all this money? If that's what you're going to be doing, you're probably going to fail. Again, you should do things that you know, or willing to learn everything about, even if you don't know it initially. So yeah, no, I would do what we're doing now. I'm not going to say outside capital would probably get us moving faster in certain ways. We could probably hire more staff, because I mean, like, the way we operate is we operate pretty much at margins, where once our revenue allows us to afford more people, we hire more people. We don't just accumulate revenue and pay ourselves exorbitant salaries. Everything goes back into the product, and mainly staff, and improving the network as well, but primarily staff. Like, staff is the biggest expense, right? Because they're the ones building everything. So that makes total sense. So having more money available would allow us to probably execute on our roadmap faster than we're currently executing. But it's a money, especially money falling from the sky, as we've seen in the last few years, is a double-edged sword. A bunch of companies that had money falling from the sky, they've overhired, and now they're going to be screwed in the coming year or so, once we get further into this recession that we're in. So there's advantages and there's disadvantages.
Yeah, there's a lot of tech companies laying off staff because exactly what you said. I've read a few articles around this, that they overhired, and now heading into a recession, they've got to trim their expenses and not be so bloated.
Yeah, no, some of the stories that you hear, companies raising hundreds of millions of dollars while generating under $100,000 in revenue per month, with like hundreds of people kind of just burning cash. To me, that's ridiculous, right? And to us, I mean, since we're pretty much understaffed, and we are hiring, like, the job market is a lot better now. In terms of who's available, the skill sets that we're interested in. So I don't want to kind of dance on anyone's corpse here, but it's been pretty good for us.
Yeah. Can you outline the most stressful point in your small business growth journey so our audience can learn from it?
The most stressful one, I mean, it's the fact that you're pretty much, at the end of the day, you're responsible for everything that happens. Any decisions that you make, that have a ripple effect, sometimes instantly, sometimes a year later, you're on the hook for everything. You know, my work hours are not 9 to 5. You know, I pretty much my average work day is about 12 hours plus the occasional weekends. So it's pretty stressful work. There's a lot of stuff to do, and there's a lot on my plate. You know, just from the basic, you know, CEO type responsibilities to, you know, actual development, managing teams. Yeah, I still wear quite a few hats, and you know, hopefully our hiring rounds will allow me to remove some of those hats in the near future. So that's kind of like my main objective, is to, you know, relieve myself of a lot of like super day-to-day responsibilities, like deep in the trenches, so I can concentrate slightly on a bigger picture, because we're still, you know, all three of the founders were very much in the trenches even 6 years later. So that's something that that's pretty much my main kind of goal for 2023
Yeah.
Yeah.
What area in business do you feel you've had to work on the most to add the greatest value?
Talking to people, I would say, just like talking to your and customers all the time, every day, seeing what they're saying, how they're saying it, how they're perceiving your announced roadmap, how they're perceiving the features that you're releasing. Are you releasing things that anyone actually cares about, or and more importantly, willing to pay money for? Right. That's very important.
What have you enjoyed the least about managing fast growth?
The least. I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question, I suppose. I mean, just basically, I would say, I mean, everything being on fire, kind of like all the time. I would say, no, not even from the technical perspective. You know, I mean, our server infrastructure is pretty solid, but it's just like there's just so much being thrown at you from all directions, and you know, being understaffed definitely makes the problem worse. And kind of like staying sane, and kind of, you know, it's also like, you know, my wife always like, oh, let's go on vacation, let's go do this. I'm like, no, I have work to do, work to do. I mean, whenever I do go on vacation, it's usually maximum of 4 to 5 days.
Yep.
You know, maybe like after day 3, I'm like, hey, okay, I need my computer. I need to see what's going on. I need to go answer this barrage of emails. You know, some people are okay with having their inbox with 50,000 unread messages. I am not one of those people.
I hate that.
I need to have 0 unread messages and 0 flagged emails. If I don't have that, I go crazy. Yeah.
What do you love most about growing a small business?
Well, I mean, from what we're doing, like the way that we are currently set up, the fact that we have no kind of outside capital, and therefore no one's kind of you know, pulling our strings, so to speak, having that ultimate freedom to effectively do whatever you want. I don't. It's pretty good, because it allows you to make some decisions. Some of them might not be great, and an outside capital person might be like, hey, what you're doing here is probably not a good idea, or maybe you should do it this way. So having those external opinions are important, which we currently don't really have. But the flip side of that is, you know, it allows you to, you know, come up with an idea just in one evening, you know, everybody agrees, and then just go and execute on it right away, you know, and you know, get it out there extremely fast, without, you know, getting permission or consulting someone on, you know, whether it is or isn't a good idea. And the more you do it, the more you'll understand what is a good idea and what isn't, and what requires more ideation and what doesn't. And that kind of thing comes, I guess, with experience, so to speak.
Yeah. What has been the biggest mindset shift for you in your small business growth journey?
Mind shift. I think I kind of briefly touched upon it. And early on, you know, how we operate is do everything yourself, right? Because there's no one else to do it. All right, you can either pay someone to do it, or you can do it yourself. All right, and we still have that mantra, I would say, almost to our detriment, where it's like, oh, hey, we need to do this. Okay, I can go and do it right now in 2 hours, right? Or I can go and delegate it to someone else, which, you know, it will take me half an hour to go describe what needs to be done, and you know, it probably will take longer than 2 hours than me just sitting down and doing it immediately. It might take 2 days, or sometimes or even longer. So you're like, okay, I can do this faster, but like you can't do this forever. Because you're only one person, you can only do things sequentially. And if you say, hey, I'm going to do everything myself all the time, you're basically going to be stuck in the trenches doing all this work yourself, when you do have a staff that can relieve you from some of these things. So kind of like learning to let go of certain things and be like, okay, I can do this, but I shouldn't. I should delegate this to someone and concentrate on something else. That has been, I would say, the biggest shift.
The number one habit you think a small business owner needs to develop and maintain?
Number one habit. I mean, well, it depends on which stage you're at, right? If it's early on, then I could say the number one habit is try to do as much of everything that you can yourself. So you can learn every single aspect of the business that you operate, whether it's technical, whether it's support, whether it's, if you're doing marketing, do all of these things yourself. Don't just be like, hey, I'm just going to hire for all these people. I'm going to get a marketing manager. I'm going to get a business manager. I'm going to get a, whatever kind of manager. You have to be all of those managers early on to understand what that role actually requires, what are the ins and outs, what are the challenges, and only then can you truly delegate a task to someone else once you've, I think, understood it fully yourself. So getting to that habit of like not taking shortcuts, especially early on, I think is important. But that over time, learning of when to step back and let the manager, whoever it is that you've hired to do parts of your job, and then you can also gauge how well they're doing it because you've done it yourself. And yeah.
Want to become the best manager you can be? Check out our Kick-Ass Manager course at growasmallbusiness.com. Do the course and add your fellow managers for no extra cost. Join the 30%. 70% of people quit their job because of their manager.
Perfect question for you, because over 6 years, you've gone from 3 full-time equivalents to around 50 now, amazing growth. Can you talk to how you've added people to the team, some wins, mistakes, and advice for those listening?
Right. So yeah, I mean, a lot of our hires, especially recently, are through referrals, which are the best, in my opinion, because people, that work in a company, they know how companies operated, and when they refer someone, they already kind of gave them a little crash course of what to expect, and since they're, they probably might have similar interests. It's nice to have, or especially it's nice to work with friends, I would say, right? In terms, we do quite a bit of hiring through like different headhunting agencies. Those things also come with fees, which is not super great, but yeah, referrals are pretty awesome in that kind of sense. And sorry, there was another part of your question which kind of I just spaced out on.
Any mistakes you've made in hiring?
Oh, mistakes. I would say not in hiring, but in firing, of not firing fast enough in certain cases. Like we kind of, we're all people, and sometimes you'll make a hire and you see that it's not working out, right? They're not what you've expected, either too slow or some skill set is missing that you've discovered that you weren't unable to discover during the interview process, for example, right? And we've tried to give people a lot of chances to kind of like, okay, cool, like let's improve those skills. Let's see what we can do to get you, to operate at the efficiency that I think you should be operating. And we do a lot of hand holding and helping, which is very nice to do, right? But it is not sustainable long term if you're trying to build, a high performance team. So we've kind of became a bit more, I would say, cold-blooded over time to kind of, hire fast, fire fast mentality. Probably heard of that saying before, but it is true. You should be doing it.
What are some of the things you recommend to building a sustainable and kick-ass culture to help with the growth?
Well, having kind of like a good mission definitely helps, and if you're, it really depends on the company and what you're doing. Like we have a very good mission, make internet be uncensored for anyone in any country. You can have access to any kind of information that you want. whether you're in China, Iran, Russia, for example, where huge swaths of the internet are blocked, right? And people use these products to, gain access to information. Others use it for just general privacy and to reduce their online footprint. But the mission is a lot more clear, and it makes sense, and it's easy to rally like-minded people around that kind of mission. But if your mission is, how do we optimize ad spend for someone, it's like it doesn't have that same kind of ring. You're not going to be like, oh yeah, I really want to optimize that ad spend. This is like my soul life's dream is to do this. Like said no one ever, right? But but giving access to the internet to those in need is pretty virtuous.
Yeah,
and it's easy to rally people around that.
This may be a short answer. Tell our audience how you've handled balance.
Balance. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
I think that kind of answers your question.
Yeah.
Even though it's kind of a joke, but I'm assuming what you mean, like work-life balance.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have any. That's basically the answer. I basically have to force myself to have that work-life balance. So I do, occasionally, go out into nature for a day, usually not more than a day, go camping or, do some shooting, kind of fun. Target shooting is, it's very relaxing. After a stressful day of mouse clicking.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really have to force myself to have the balance, and that's probably not healthy long term. And I do have to learn to kind of be more chill and let go sometimes. And I am working on that. But for now, it's 98% work and 2% fun for me.
How much professional development have you invested in yourself?
What kind of development?
Professional development. Obviously, there'd be a lot on the coding side, I assume, but what about on the business side? Any?
Well, look, I'm a self-taught coder. I've never went to school for programming. I did finish university, but not for anything truly useful or anything that I that I use on day-to-day basis or really ever. So I mean, self-education is key, and internet is pretty great. You can learn literally anything online about any topic, and you just have to be interested in something and spend the time. I just on a non-technical front, honestly, I don't really do much on that right now, other than the occasional audiobook or interesting blog posts or that type of stuff. But I don't really consume a lot of business reading material these days. I'm still very much, hey, let's build this thing the best that it can be, and people will dig it and they'll pay us money for it.
Have you had mentors or coaches along the way?
No.
Do you have a board of directors or advisors?
No one that's external to the company. It's pretty much all internal. Yeah.
All right, you go over to our final 5 questions. What do you think is the hardest thing in growing a small business?
I would say, well, it depends again what your background is. If you're like a salaried worker, working for a company, and now you want to do your own thing. I mean, the hardest thing it's going to be like quitting your job and be like, hey, I'm going to concentrate my time and live out off a piggy bank and to get this thing going, right? Having that kind of mentality of and risk taking. I mean, you're basically taking a risk. You're quitting a cozy job 9 to 5 where you may or may not have a lot of responsibilities, and the buck probably doesn't stop with you, and kind of saying, no, fuck it, I'm just going to do my own thing.
Yep.
Not everyone can do it, right?
I totally agree with that. And people think it's a lot easier than what it actually is before they get into it. They soon learn.
Yeah.
Favorite business book which has helped you the most?
Honestly, I just mentioned that I don't really read a whole lot of business books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Any great podcasts or online learning tools you use for your own professional development?
Yeah, I do follow some podcasts. I mean, the All In podcast is pretty great. This Week in Startups is also kind of an interesting one, some interesting perspectives and just general news. There's also the Reid Hoffman podcast, Masters of Scale. Yeah, that's a pretty good one as well. There's interesting stories from very successful people and, how they scaled their companies to massive size. So those are all pretty interesting to me.
One tool you'd recommend to grow a small business?
Again, very much depends on the industry. We don't really use a whole lot of third-party tools ourselves, given the nature of the product that we're building. We try to not spread our user data or any kind of information into third-party services. So we self-host or build our own tools whenever warranted. But I know one tool that we've been really impressed with recently, and we're going to be making heavy use of, is OpenAI's ChatGPT.
I've heard a lot about that lately. Yeah,
it's absolutely incredible. Honestly, this tool is gonna be, once they actually have a true API that you can interact with, it's gonna be a game changer for a lot of industries, and we're going to be using it internally to improve our internal support team to get basically people solving their own problems without contacting human staff, and then we can take human staff and have them do something else, as opposed to just answering support tickets all day.
Yeah, I've seen a few examples of that lately in the last few weeks, and I've been blown away with just how powerful and accurate it is.
Yeah, no, it's simply amazing. I've been playing with the previous incarnation of it, GPT-3, but this is like a whole different ballgame.
We're up to 4.
It's mind-boggling.
Is it 4 now? It's just come out?
No, 4 is not officially out. I think they're aiming to release that at some point next year. But ChatGPT-3 is kind of like 3.5.
Got it.
But yeah, you can definitely tell the difference.
Yeah. Finally, my favorite question: what would you tell yourself on day one of starting out 7 years ago?
What would I tell myself? Learn to delegate faster.
Great.
Yeah.
Great advice there. I totally agree with that. Well, thanks very much for your time today, Igor. I think we've got a lot of value out of what you've shared with us. Great journey, amazing growth, over 50 million users now, and going from 3 founders to around 50 team members, and hiring in a very challenging tech environment where a lot of other competitors and other tech companies are shedding staff. So congratulations to you and your 2 co-founders on the success.
Yeah, thank you.
That's it. Thanks for listening. Please leave a review in iTunes or whatever platform you listen to us on. It means more small business owners will find our cast and help people with their business growth journey.